I really think the school system really is the final frontier. We really have to focus on a balanced curriculum for history. If we're going to talk about slavery and the conquest of territory in the United States, I think we have to put that in global historical context. I would say you should not be allowed to teach about American slavery without talking about slavery as practiced by some non-Western civilization, whether that be West Coast tribes in North America, which had slavery, which was stamped out by the British, for example, whether that be Aztec, Ottoman slavery. People have to understand this was not, a lot of young Americans think slavery was invented by white America. A lot of people say the indigenous people lived in peace and harmony before the Europeans arrived. That kind of misinformation needs to be dealt with in the education system. So big reforms of the curriculum. Right now, the curriculum's controlled by the left, breaking the hold of the unions, breaking the hold of the education schools in the curriculum. I think that should be a very high priority because that's really bringing up the next generation and how they see the world. More training in the tradition of freedom of speech and the Constitution. I think that needs to happen as well, just to drill, to raise a generation that cares about those classical liberal traditions. Where I would disagree with the kind of post-liberal right, there are people like Yoram Hazony and to some extent Chris Rufo who say, well, institutions can never be neutral or balanced. They're always going to be one side or the other. And so we want, the ones in the red states to be teaching, Christianity or teaching some kind of conservative values and virtues. I'm more of a believer that we can get to neutrality and balance. So the point is to drive out the left-wing indoctrination, but not to replace it with right-wing indoctrination. I think that's possible. I'm not as pessimistic as the post-liberals. I think we can do that, but to do that is going to require a lot more engagement with the content of what's being taught in schools.